right. Hello. But I'm so glad that you guys are here with me today. And let's talk first about today's plan so that you know what to expect during our time together today. I have blocked out about 60 minutes for this. And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is a deep dive into what is really going on in the science of attachment and what happens during, relationship bonding, but also during relationship loss that can make it very, very difficult to let go, to stop thinking about an ex, and to be able to move on. So that will be our conceptual understanding, like what is the issue here. I'll also be walking you through an exercise that is going to help you start feeling better today. My hope is that by the end of this presentation, you will feel more grounded. You will have a little bit more psychological distance than you did previously that will help you just have something to do in those moments when it's feeling really hard. And I'm also going to be spending some time talking about the biggest mistakes that I see people make all the time when they are confronted with this kind of situation, so that you know what they are and will have some insight into how to avoid them, because it's very important that you don't get stuck in this place. And that is unfortunately very common and very easy to do. And then at the end of our time together, I hope to get through all my informational material quickly so that we have lots of time just to talk about you and your situation. I'd love to be able to answer your questions and provide you with personalized feedback and guidance that supports you along the way. So that is what we're going to be doing today. And first of all, just briefly, if we have not yet met before, I am Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby. I think that some of you are probably familiar with my work, know that I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm the founder of Growing Self-Counseling and Coaching. And I have done a number of things over the years, certainly individual therapy. I also do clinical supervision. I am an educator of other therapists, and in particular, a champion of evidence-based coaching psychology. I have a training program for therapists to help them develop some more effective competencies that can manage some of the limitations of traditional therapy. But a big piece of my work over the years has honestly been around heartbreak recovery. And there is a personal reason for this. Many years ago, as a young person, I went through an incredibly traumatic breakup. It was so hard for me. It was at an earlier stage in my life. But, part of the reason why it was so incredibly challenging is that I didn't have any direction for how to heal. And I was really, really stuck. And I remember, at the time, again, I was young, but some like my parents helped me go to see a therapist, and that therapist did not know how to help me at all. And I just remember so clearly leaving some of those sessions and just like sobbing. And part of it was, being in pain about the breakup and everything that was happening, but also this terrible, like, what is wrong with me that, even therapy can't help me? Like, I think I internalized it, I personalized it. And at the time, what I didn't realize was what, one of the things that you'll learn about today, which is that therapists like me don't get any specific training or skill sets around helping people with this very specific thing, which is relationship loss. Therapists like me are trained on how to diagnose and treat mental health conditions. And this is a very unique life experience that has a lot of different aspects to it that therapists do not know how to assist people with and support people in. And of course, when I was younger, I didn't realize this. And even, when I became older and decided, well, I'm going to go to counseling school, I want to help people, I want to, be of service to the world, I became a licensed marriage and family therapist. And my biggest role and a huge part of my passion is honestly helping people have healthier relationships, helping people heal relationships. So that's a big part of what I do. But as we all know, sometimes relationships can't be saved saved. Sometimes they should not be saved. And when that would happen, I would frequently be left with one person on the couch in my therapy office who was absolutely brokenhearted. And I would try to help them using conventional therapeutic techniques, and it didn't work. And I had clients who were just stuck for a long time, and I felt awful about it. I felt like I was failing them. And that led me to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, you know what? Maybe it wasn't actually my fault when I was younger and therapy didn't help me. Maybe it's not my fault as a therapist now that I'm not really helping my clients. Maybe it's that there is a better way. So I did a bunch of original research. It turned into a book, Exaholics, Breaking an Addiction to an Ex-Love. And it also turned into a system of helping people change and grow and heal and develop themselves. And that is incredibly powerful. And so that is part of what I'll be telling you about so that you can understand what has really been going on behind the scenes in your own healing process. And that's where I'm coming from when I'm giving you direction and guidance about things to think about or maybe do a little bit differently that might be new. They might be things that you haven't heard before, because this isn't something that's common knowledge for a lot of therapists. So I just wanted to help you understand where I'm coming from and what this is all about. So this is a very different system, and it is a more productive path forward. And what I discovered through this original research is that there are 9 specific stages of healing that people have to go through successfully in order to truly heal from heartbreak, be able to release an attachment to an ex. But more importantly, when they do this work, it is so much more than just like getting over an ex. When people are able to move through all of these stages productively, they have an opportunity to do very, very important personal growth work above and beyond, the relationship itself. Yes, the goal in the beginning is to heal the heartache and get past this attachment loss. But when this work is done well, it provides an incredible opportunity for people to really learn things about themselves that they wouldn't have before. So it's incredible. It's been just such a privilege to help people through this. And I want to give you some of this before we end today. But I think the other piece here is that it is very, very important and to know what's really going on and that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about educating people and wanting to do these free trainings is because without this, people stay stuck. I have personally had people come into me for help who have been stuck 5 years, 10 years after a relationship ended. They are married to other people now, and they still can't stop thinking about their ex, and it's just awful. And so what I'll be teaching you today will help you just like do these pieces and not get stuck for a really long time, potentially. That is my hope for you. And so the beginning part of this is navigating withdrawal. And that is what we're actually going to be talking about today. I'm going to be giving you some insight into this very first stage of healing after heartbreak that will help you understand why you are still thinking about your ex and how to stop. And so one of the first things to know is that nature built us to bond to other humans. This is part of what keeps humanity alive. Mothers bond to babies in a very powerful way. Parents bond to their children, but also we bond to our partners. We also bond to friends, but there is something that is very powerful about an attachment bond to a romantic partner. And as I talk about in my program and in my work, it is undeniably true, and research shows this, that love is a biologically addictive process. And I mean this in the most positive sense of the word, but there are systems and structures in all of our brains that are designed for the purpose of emotionally welding us to another person. And this exists for a reason. It helps us survive when we have a very strong attachment bond to other humans. And so the fact that you are strongly attached to another person, it is not a bug. It is a feature, and it is evidence that you are a healthy human who is doing what nature intended you to do. But the flip side of this, and what you're probably experiencing, is that when relationships end, particularly when you don't want them to, it is a survival crisis, because our ability to bond to other humans, it goes so deep that this is not just about psychological reasons, it is not just emotional. I mean, on an evolutionary scale, humans' attachment to other people is part of our survival drive. We need other people in order to live. And this is, if you go back 100,000 years ago, to be part of a family group, part of a collective, this was a fundamentally important part of human survival. And so whether you are aware of this or not, this is part of what's going on very, very deep levels, non-conscious levels, is that the survival drive experience gets activated when you lose a relationship. And so what that does is that nature tries to get you to reconnect with your attachment figure through any means necessary. And even if it's not a really good idea from an intellectual perspective. So even if your ex cheated on you, even if they were legitimately a psychopath, even if they were not an available partner for, like, in very real ways. Like, I think, Katie, I think it was you when we first started chatting, mentioning that you were with somebody who had unresolved substance use disorder, right? I mean, like, there are a lot of really good and legitimate reasons. Like, I cannot be in a relationship with this person, but your rational mind understands this, but this other part of you, this deeper survival drive, attached place, doesn't touch that at all. It's a very powerful experience, and it needs to be resolved differently. So your logical mind has nothing to do with this. And I just wanted to say that out loud, because this can be really, really confusing for people going through this. Like, why do I feel this way? Even if, like, there are all these really good reasons for me to not be in this relationship with this person anymore. And so this part of our brains is very, very powerful. We're symbolizing it with an elephant, right? It's big, it's powerful. And this very deep subconscious survival drive, this attachment bond, it does some very specific things to you. It changes the way you think, it changes the way you feel, and it also changes the way that you behave in very specific ways. And this is what happens. It changes your thoughts in that it makes you have intrusive, obsessive feeling thoughts about an ex, because nature is like, reconnect, reconnect, reconnect. And that's why you're having all these intrusive thoughts. It also leads you to crave contact with this person. So, just talking to them one more time, or if only I could see them, wanting to reach out, even if your thinking brain knows that it's not a good idea. And it can also lead you to do things that are kind of compulsive, texting them anyway, even when you know you shouldn't, driving by their house, or agreeing to meet with them or engage with them, perpetuating being in a relationship with them, even if it's like a quasi relationship. Like, a lot of people are still hooking up with an ex after the fact, even if they know it's a terrible idea, but it's because of that deep, deep survival drive response that is non-conscious. It is non-conscious. And so what's really going on here, this is a picture of an elephant with a little rider at the top. And the elephant is representative of this incredibly deep, powerful attachment bond that is connected to these fundamental survival drives. This is like stuff that keeps you alive. Like if you were too cold, if you're starving to death, you would have all these resources mobilized to keep you alive. And the same thing happens when a primary attachment is threatened or broken. The little rider on the top of the elephant, that is the symbol of our conscious minds, our intellectually aware parts that says, I don't think this is a good idea, or no, this relationship is actually over. It is impossible for a little tiny human sitting on the back of an elephant to control this elephant unless this elephant has been brought under control, unless it has been tamed, and unless there is this coordination of efforts. And so what I realized through my research and through the subsequent program and the system that I developed to heal people, through this, are a couple of things. This elephant, this big, huge attachment drive, it lives in the dark, meaning that it is non-conscious until we make it conscious. And it also runs the show in a very, very real way, unless and until you are able to get your conscious mind, your volitional self back in charge. And it's very important for you to learn how to do this, because if you don't do this work and stay stuck in stage one, which a lot of people do, believe it or not, many people going through this experience do not get further than stage one because they are being controlled by these big survival drives. And this looks like breaking up and getting back together over and over, even if it is a legitimately unhealthy, even toxic relationship. So you see this a lot. Even, going into like a domestic violence situations, people going back to their ex, like that's part of what's happening here. They don't understand what's happening. Reunion fantasies, like maybe we could get back together, maybe it could work, that craving for contact, the compulsion to try again. It can also turn into this relationship purgatory where you're not really together, but you're also not really separate. Or even if you're not talking to them anymore, it still feels like you're connected because that attachment bond is still so strong. It can lead to some regrettable choices in terms of the compulsions, the things that you do to kind of reconnect with an ex. But I think most importantly, you cannot move on to the next stage of this process where you need to re-engage your thinking brain in order to start making some very real decisions around, is this relationship actually viable? Is this a good idea? Can we get back together? Should we get back together? And that second phase of the work is true relationship clarity. But if you're stuck in this withdrawal phase, you can't even do that. So it's very important to begin to develop some abilities to get this piece under control. And that's why I wanted to start here in today's training with you. So there are 4 steps to getting back into control. And now I will also preface this by saying there are actually many different things that need to happen in order to get back in control of this entire elephant. And so that's why the whole first module of my program is devoted entirely to helping people manage different aspects of this withdrawal experience so that they can get back into control. But here's one thing that you can practice and start doing today, which is a 4-step model. The first piece of this is to be aware and start to get visibility into what your elephant looks like. When it is active inside of you, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? How does it change your feelings? How does it change your thoughts? And then the next step is to name it, to be able to see it, say like, I see you. I know what this is. This is how we get your thinking brain back into control. The third step here is to learn how to soothe it, to understand I am having a feeling. I do not need to obey this. I need to ride this wave and understand what's happening and get into a place of, feeling calm, right? But then the 4th step here is to commit to taking positive and productive action. And this is drawn, not, this isn't necessarily even my idea. This is coming from a specific type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, where we become self-aware, we accept the experience that we're having, but we also remain committed to values-based action. Again, think about like the elephant and the rider. When you are committed to doing what you know is right, you are putting your thinking brain back in charge and back in control of that elephant. And so I have a little activity prepared for us to do together, and I'd love for you to do this with me right now. Take just a moment here and let's just practice, first of all, being aware of what that survival drive elephant looks like, feels like, how it shows up for you. And if anybody would like to share, I would love to hear this, just maybe even a couple of little examples of things that you've noticed, like when that elephant is there, that attachment bond that says reconnect, call them, do something. How do you know? How do you know that it's happening? I'm so eager to hear what you have to say. Anyone? I know, I'll do a personal share, that for me, when I have dealt with survival drive types of feelings, I feel a knot in my solar plexus, like right in this particular part of my chest. That is where I feel it. And it is like a legitimate pain. I know that when I was going through my terrible breakup, I couldn't eat for months because of how it was actually painful. Oh, I see some other people showing like panic when I wake up. Yeah, totally. It feels like panic, doesn't it? Pressure in your chest. Yep, me too. And Katie's sharing that it usually comes up after a trigger, that it feels like a tightness in your chest. My rascally elephant comes at night and takes over my thoughts. It wants me to start looking up stuff online about your ex. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that like compulsion, that craving contact, right? Someone else sharing that your thoughts become overwhelming. Yeah. And thinking about your ex not being yours, your stomach drops. Yeah, that's right. And I think it's this visceral feeling. It is very real, but it is also very like physiological. This is a biologically based thing. This isn't coming from your imagination. This isn't something that you are creating in your mind. Your body was designed to maintain attachment bonds to other humans. So this is really real. Somebody else sharing, reliving all the good times you had with them. Yeah, so that like compulsive, like the thinking. And remember, this survival drive, it changes the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave, because nature is trying to save your life, believe it or not. You're like, yeah. Okay. So then the second step of this, let's do this one together too, is to name it. So the name of this feeling, I'll go first again. So like for me personally, the name of this feeling is anxiety. And I had to do some work to get there. Like when I am experiencing this like pit in my solar plexus, this pain, that is how I feel when I feel really, really anxious. What would you call that feeling for you? Let's discuss. Mine is right here. Its name is anxiety. What's yours? Out of control. Yeah. That panicked. Craving. Yep. Good one. Sadness. Yeah, absolutely. Tight chest, pressure, and flooded. Yep. Regret, confusion, sadness, longing, wanting to connection, despair. Yeah. Big, big, big things. Okay. Well then, so the next step of this, and this takes some practice, okay? But like, so this is, something that we actually spend a lot of time on in the very first stage of the program is how do you soothe this? And there are many, many, many strategies that can be deployed, but one that I'm teaching right here is just coming into present a moment awareness and coming back into the safety of the present moment. I am having a survival drive response. It is showing up in me as this. It is called, this is the name of the feeling that I am experiencing. It is here for a reason, whether or not this relationship was a good idea. And nature is not going to let me just like flip a switch and be done that easily, because I am a healthy whole human who is designed to bond to other people. But I know that here and now in the present moment, I am safe. I am okay, even if it feels like I'm out of control and I'm despairing and I'm like flooded and I'm losing it. Here is why I am safe in this present moment. And it can be very, very simple. It can be a simple physical reminder. I am safe in this present moment because I am literally sitting here at my desk talking to some nice people. I am drinking tea. I feel that the tea is warm. Nothing terrible is actually happening to me right this very second. I am not dying, even if it feels like it, right? And that is part of how we soothe. So give me some examples of a present moment awareness that is true for you right now. And it could be some simple as like, I feel what it feels like to be sitting in a chair. I can feel my feet on the floor. I am here drinking warm tea with Dr. Lisa. Oh, good one. Cuddling with my dogs. Yep. Sitting with my cats, listening to them purr. Oh, good. Yeah, that's right. And these are small things. And this is just one of a constellation of things to learn how to do, to develop the soothing skills. But part of managing withdrawal is just coming back to that grounded present. Like, I am okay. Yep. Talking to my dog, looking into his loving eyes, checking on your plants. Isn't that wonderful that we have these living, loving creatures around us, pets, plants, the world, and to be able to kind of come back into the present with that. That's a wonderful, wonderful strategy. And then the next step of this is being able to commit to taking positive action. I need to learn how to manage this well so that I can what? What is your why? Right? Why do you need to manage this very first stage of healing so that you can move on through this entire process, come out the other side stronger, wiser, more resilient, more loving? I know that for me, when I went through this when I was very, very young, one of my biggest whys, the reason why I wanted to do the work and to be okay, this will sound so awful, but like, this person that I was bonded to was not a good person. Like they were not nice to me. They were not somebody that I and I knew this, that I didn't need to be in a relationship with you, but I didn't want them to win, honestly. And like me being so sad and so devastated and so like, just hurt by this on like that deep attachment level, in contrast with my brain being like, but they were awful. Like it's like, I'm not going to let them do this to me. So I think that was actually part of my values-based commitment, for better or for worse. But there are a lot of other reasons that people have for wanting to do this work. And I think a big one and a really powerful one is, I don't ever want to be in this situation again. I want to learn from this. I want to grow. I want to have a really great relationship with somebody else in the future. I deserve healthy love. And so what do I need to do in order to, release my attachment to this human, but also learn and grow so that I can have the kind of life and the kind of love that I want in the future. So those are just examples of reasons. But what is your reason for wanting to do this work and be able to move forward? If you'd like to share. Oh, I need to learn how to manage this feeling so that I can grow emotionally. That's amazing. Yeah. That's a good one. So Sharon, this is getting in the way of a future, my wonderful future that I know is waiting for me. Another share. I don't want to drag this story with me everywhere I go, even if I'm only doing it silently. I want to learn so that I can have a good, healthy relationship in the future. Amazing. For my kids, so that they can see me happy and healthy. Oh my gosh, that is so good. And you're totally right. I mean, that's so powerful because, when particularly if it was the loss of a relationship that was part of your kid's family, either their parent or somebody who was a big part of their life, it's a real loss for them too. And we as parents have got to do our own work so that we can really be emotionally available for our children in order to support them through the work that they need to do right now too. So, that's incredibly important. Thank you. Oh, Katie shared, I want to do this so that I can get to the next chapter in my life. Jeff shared, I want to feel whole again and not let them steal my light. I love this. Okay, lots of fantastic motivation here. And that's good. And that's part of what we can come back to in that soothing moment, like, I'm all right. And I am going to recognize this elephant and not let it control me because there's so much more waiting for me on the other side of this. So coming back to that over and over again. So, part of the reason why it is so important to develop and practice competencies related to how do I manage the experience of just phase one is because there are so many, honestly, like more stages of this that you have to work through productively in order to heal and grow. A quick list, and I'm going to be talking about these in a little bit more detail, but navigating withdrawal so that you can achieve true clarity about the relationship, so that you can start closing doors, so that you can grieve and find closure, so that you can start going into dark emotions, so that you can learn and grow, so that you can earn the right to emotional freedom, so that you can start to focus on rebuilding your life according to who you are now and what you want now, so that you are truly prepared to create a phenomenal relationship going forward. All of these stages support the next. And unfortunately, what happens is that if people are not aware of these stages and what needs to happen in each one of them in order to move through them productively, they stay stuck. And they want to move on, and I'll show you what can happen. We're going to talk about some of the problem areas and the mistakes that people make, but what happens is that they just spin their wheels for a really long time. So here's the next activity that I have prepared for us. I am going to talk you through what each of these stages look like and feel like, and I want you to be thinking about which of these feel true for you currently. And here's a hint. If you are let me just say this differently. Many people will simultaneously experience all of these a little bit all at the same time at the very, very beginning. But when you have successfully done the work of the stage that you need to do, the earliest one will feel resolved. So it's like if you were in stage 3, for example, there's not a whole lot to talk about in stage 1 or 2 anymore. But if you're in stage 1, every single one of these will probably be active for you. So I'm going to talk through these, but I want you to be thinking about whether or not you have crossed some of the earliest ones off your list. And if not, what stage you're in is the earliest one of these that you need to go back and do the work in that particular stage in order to be able to successfully move through all of them. And if you try to do this too soon or too fast, you literally can't do the work of the next stage for reasons that will become obvious as we continue to talk. So what we were just discussing here is the reality of navigating withdrawal. And so the goal here, when you have done this work successfully, there's a lot of self-awareness, there's stabilization, there's a grounded experience, you feel more in control of yourself. And it's like this getting a grip and not making things worse is the goal of stage 1, is like getting that elephant under control a little bit so that your thinking mind is more online than it is at the very beginning. And this is crucially important because until you do that, you cannot do the work of relationship clarity. And this is figuring out in a very real way, is this really over? And so just, full disclosure here, yeah, I'm a breakup recovery specialist, but what I really am, I am a marriage and family therapist, right? Like I am a relationship specialist, and I am always here to help people heal and repair their relationships whenever that is possible. And so, yes, there are times when relationships absolutely need to end. It is not a good idea to keep moving forward, but it is also true that people break up, they get back together again. And this can be challenging to figure out, like, is this really over? And you cannot do any of the work of the next stages until you know that for absolutely sure. So the goal of this stage is to do a thorough assessment. Is reconciliation possible? And if so, how do we do that? Is this a good idea? How do we do it in a safe way? Or if there is like, no, this is over, it needs to be over, I'm glad this is over, like this is what needs to happen, then it shifts into, okay, I need to wrap my brain around this and actually release this so that there's no more like reunion fantasies, messing around with maybe if, like we have to stop that so that you can move to the next phase, which is creating closure. And in this phase, you are setting new healthy boundaries that help you create closure for yourself, because you cannot heal this until you start closing those doors in very real ways. And then once you do that, you are going to be pushed into contact with grief. Even if you feel sad in earlier stages, that is going to intensify significantly once you create relationship clarity and start shutting those doors for good. And you have to do this so that you can start emotionally saying goodbye in order to be able to say hello to the future. But once you work through grief, what's going to happen is that you will become aware of other dark emotions that grief can oftentimes mask, honestly. So things like anger, resentment, regret, guilt, shame, sometimes like stuff related to self-esteem, self-worth. It comes up in this phase, but you can't really do this work until you do the work of the previous stages. And this work is essential because it is through our dark emotions that you get enough information to do the work of the next phase, which is related to what did I learn here? How did this change me? What do I want to do differently next time? That all comes from your dark emotions. And then when you are able to do this work, you can start creating action plans that turn into into like a turning point, right? That it starts to feel more empowering, that this relationship did not break you. This was my breakthrough because going through this experience taught me X, Y, Z. Here's what I'm going to do differently going forward. And this is amazing. But it's only once you do all of that work that you can legitimately start to attain mental and emotional freedom. Your mind will not let you go here to this while there is unfinished emotional business. You have to work through the previous steps, or otherwise this place here will be impossible to do. But in this place, you have to learn specific skills and strategies that will help you cut those cords. And there are a variety of mental like cognitive skills that need to be learned and practiced in order to be able to do this effectively. So there's work here too. But once you do that, you are finally in this place where you're free. And now you get to think about, who am I now? What do I want for my future? Because, you know, when an important relationship ends, it's like it rips everything up, right? All these little pieces of paper, like your life was one way and now it's not. And how do you want this to look in this next chapter that you're going to move into? And this is exciting work where you're building a bright new future that feels truly healthy, happy, and whole for you. And this is an important part of the work. And this is also crucially important to do if part of your hope is to love again. It's, you know, entering into a new relationship from a place of wholeness and happiness and authentic readiness for love, where you're not looking to another person to like, oh, maybe this will change things for me, but really like coming into it on a solid foundation where you're set up to have an amazing relationship with somebody moving forward, because you deserve that. So these are the stages of the work, and I hope you can understand why it's so important to be able to go through these. And actually, you know what? Next, we're going to talk about why people get stuck so that you get some visibility into this. But first, I would love to see just a couple of comments if you would care to share, if you have a sense of what stage of this you are in. So thinking back to what I shared, like what is the first one of those stages where you were like, yeah, I probably have some work to do in this one. I'm just curious. Maggie says that you feel like you're in multiple. Maggie, what is the first of those that are true? Noel says dark emotions. Great. Maggie said the first. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? The first one is a showstopper, when it's that like the craving contact and the intrusive thoughts, like you cannot do anything else. It's certainly difficult to get into that clarity stage. Okay, some sharing that you're in stage 2. You can't come to a personal conclusion that it is over. Yeah, and until you do that, that is where you stay for sure. Okay, so obsessive thoughts, definitely anger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Multiples. Oh, you saw them after a year when you shouldn't have, so it opened the wound again. Mm-hmm. Yep. Jeff is sharing still at the beginning. There's a lot of uncertainty, stage 2, and it seems like a lot to get through. Well, you know, it is and it isn't. There are many stages, and, you know, like, what are your options? It's some ways that I look at it, like, because this is why people get stuck. They don't realize that these stages exist. And also, you do not have to rush through them. I mean, you know, I'm talking about these like it's all sort of one after the other, but in reality, particularly if this was a long-term relationship, I mean, it might take a year or more to really do the work of the different stages, and there's no rush, like that you have to really stay just in the first one. that you're in and deal with that fully. And then there's like this natural advancement. Like you don't have to force yourself. You don't have to rush it. It naturally unfolds when you're ready to move into that next stage. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. And then grief. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff here. So really briefly, I do want to give you some visibility into why people get stuck so that you just have clarity into how to not let this happen to you and so it avoids some of these traps. And then we'll wrap up and hopefully have a lot of time to talk about you and your questions, because I want to do that with you. Okay, so the 4 biggest mistakes that people make when they are in these situations. Show you what they are and just think about like, am I doing this? So that you can back up and not, because I do not want you to get stuck. The first one is to try to shut it down. So if you're in that stage 1, like obsessive thinking, craving contact, all the things, trying to jump this to stage 7, which is mental and emotional freedom, trying to force that. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to do this. I want to shut it down. I want to be free of this without doing the work of the preceding stages that will naturally allow stage 7 to happen is pretty much impossible. And so if you try to force this, you will frustrate the heck out of yourself. It won't work. And you'll feel really discouraged. And like, what is wrong with me that I can't stop thinking about them is because there is all of this unfinished business. And so the key here is to go back, do the work of the stages, and allow this process to unfold naturally, that by the time you get to this stage, it is going to be much, much, much easier. You'll still have to do a few things intentionally, but you will be able to do them. If you try to do this work before then, you won't be able to do it, is the short answer. Another thing sometimes that people do is want to jump from stage 1 to stage 8. I'm just going to rebuild my life. I'm going to get busy. I'm going to make some new friends. I'm going to move. I'm going to, travel the world. I'm going to try to leapfrog over all these other stages and just get into like the rebuilding my life. I'm great, posting all kinds of pictures on social media that maybe they'll see, which is absolutely a strategy. And you certainly do need to rebuild your life at some point and really focus on who am I, what makes me happy, what do I want. But if you try to leapfrog over all these other stages, it won't be authentic because you won't have done the emotional processing work that you really need to do. And it also, you will be doing things, but you'll still be hurting, and nobody wants that. Another issue and a big mistake is that people jump into rebound relationships. They go from stage 1 and they're like, get myself on dating apps. I'm going to just, find a new thing. That'll be the answer. They jump into number 9. And it is not a good situation for a variety of reasons that we'll talk about here in a minute, but it can be deeply problematic. Another thing that I will just say is that many people, understandably, seek help and support from traditional therapy for assistance in going through a devastating relationship loss. And as a therapist who tried this for a long time with clients, I have a lot of insight into what I think the problem really is and what it is about traditional therapy that will get people stuck, which is that therapists, in addition to not having any training in relationship loss and the biological basis of attachment and what needs to happen in order to release it, is that they jump from stage 1 to stage 4. Let's just talk about grief. Let's process the pain. Let's grieve, right? So you show up and you talk about the things and you go into memories and you cry, but that is not enough. Like, yeah, that's part of it, but there's a whole other thing. Or another thing that therapists can do, and I hate to say this, but it's true, is that they go into stage 5, that like dark emotion piece, and they try to pathologize it. Yeah, why are you so angry? Why is your self-esteem so damaged in this situation? Let's talk about your attachment issues. Let's talk about your anxious attachment style. Let's talk about your parents' divorce, and like this. So that's why this is so traumatizing for you. Some of those pieces could be relevant, but even if you don't have anxious attachment style. And even if your parents never did get divorced, you are still going to have all of these experiences because of the nature of love. And what really upsets me, and I'll just be transparent about this, is when, well-meaning therapists, like they don't set out to hurt anybody, but waste people's time and money and make them start believing that there's like something uniquely wrong with them, that they're having these life experiences because therapists don't have that clear roadmap for how to get people all the way through this process. And so that is a real problem in our profession. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm devoted to teaching clinicians. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that people can make is that when they try to force this work, jump over steps, they are missing the real opportunity here, which is to do the work of stage 6, that learn and grow. You have to do all the other pieces before you can get there, but this is the part that is so transformational, and it's so much more than about just getting over a breakup. This is, how do I use this experience to evolve myself as a human, so that I am set up to have a stronger, more resilient, more beautiful life and a better relationship in the future. That's incredibly important. And a real mind shift happens for people who are looking at this work and being like, yeah, you know what? There really is a lot there. This is not just, how do I feel better in the moment? This is taking me on a journey. But thinking like, what does this make possible for me? Because the reality is that none of us do important growth work until we're forced to a lot of times, right? And we're pushed into the pool. It isn't fair. You didn't ask for this. You didn't want to do this. It feels like you have to deal with this because of the relationship ending. You don't want to. And the reality is that you don't have to. You do not have to do any of this work. You do not have to work through any of these stages. You can just, not, right? You can white knuckle it. You can try to get through it on your own. That is absolutely okay. But the risks here are big. Somebody in the beginning of this talked about that one of your biggest motivations for wanting to do this is so that you're not continuing to drag baggage with you everywhere you go. And that is incredibly insightful, because you can stay stuck in the past and maintain this attachment to a potentially highly inappropriate partner for a long time. But even if you do move on into a new relationship, if you don't work through some of this stuff, particularly that stage 6 work, it's highly likely that you are going to repeat the same patterns that co-created the situation that you just came out of, or even worse, and I've seen this happen, be emotionally unavailable to a new partner because you are still maintaining an attachment to this other person in your distant past. And that is a very challenging place to be in. And so I want you to be thinking about this whole thing differently. Like, this is so much bigger than just getting over an ex. This is a path forward towards developing yourself in a very real way. And this experience that you're having is giving you the opportunity to do this in a very real and productive way. And so this is a different way of thinking about it. This is also a different model. This is very different than traditional therapy. And this is very, very focused. And so the program that I developed was in response to, how do I solve these problems? How do I keep people from getting stuck? How do I help people move forward effectively in an organized way and not spin out, not, leapfrog over all these steps? And I did this in a few different ways. So in my Heal from Heartbreak program, I have it organized in 3 different levels. And that starts with my Growth Academy. And this is a step-by-step guide. It is lessons with me where I am teaching you all the things, walking you through all 9 stages in a very organized way, and teaching you how to do this work, the nuts and bolts and the very specific tools and skills and strategies. But I also know that this is an incredibly isolating time and that people need support from other humans. And so as part of this program, I developed the Growth Collective. I think a couple of you are here who are in the Growth Collective right now. And this consists of weekly group coaching calls, a little similar to this, where we're learning about things, but also there is a real-time interactive support group component where people are sharing and talking and asking questions and getting answers, but also being plugged into a 24/7 support community. So it's like 2:00 in the morning and you're like, I want to text them. And somebody's like, no, don't text them. Like, we need that, right? But additionally, of course, there's also the opportunity to do this work with the support of a one-on-one dedicated licensed therapist on my team who specializes in breakup recovery coaching. And their role is to support you as you do the work of this program. So you'd still be doing those lessons with me, working through the tools and the activities, but then coming into your sessions and talking about your thoughts, your feelings, your stuck points, your situation, to get that personalized support. So it can be exactly what you need it to be, feeling, processing, like all the best of therapy, but with the confidence that you're still moving through this organized system, not just like spinning your wheels, rehashing things, because your coach will also keep you accountable to be doing the work that you need to do that will move you forward. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, here is a QR code that will take you to a link where you can learn more about how to enroll in this program and get started in it as soon as today. And of course, we'll be following up with all of these other links. If you have questions and if you're like, should I do this? What all is involved? I need more information. Schedule a free consultation with our connection coordinator, Janelle. She's amazing. Just to talk through your situation. Like, is this going to work for me? Is this the right situation? If so, what level? Do I want to work with a coach? Like all those things, you can do that with Janelle. And then at the very least, if you haven't yet already, use this QR code to take my quiz that will show you what stage of this you're probably in and what you need to do next in order to keep moving forward. Okay. So I hope that this information was helpful for you guys and just created some visibility into where you are, what to do next. And I talked for longer than I meant to. I have a few minutes for questions. And so I know that we had a couple of questions at the very, very beginning that I want to scroll back to. And okay, so our friend Maggie shared, so a question you have, how do you manage the desire to reach out to an ex even though you agreed not to speak? I wish I could tell him more about the ways he hurt me, but I also know it's probably not going to be productive. So Maggie, to answer your question, what this involves two different parts. First of all, it involves the part of just getting a handle on those compulsions, understanding what they are, and practicing the soothing and just like the grounding skills that we talked about. Additionally, I think there's also some relationship clarity work here and closing of the doors so that there is no contact going forward. When you do that, you'll be able to do some of the grief work that lies ahead, but most importantly, you'll be able to do some of the very important emotional processing work of stage 5, where you actually have the opportunity to give some of those very hurt feelings a voice in an experiential way that will resolve it for you. You haven't done that yet, is what I'm hearing in your question. And so until you walk through that process, you're probably going to have those impulses come up because that's unfinished emotional business, is my take on that. So good question. Okay, another question. I have been, another question, how to manage the loss when leaving someone who has addiction issues. And so I think here there's going to be a lot of work necessary in the relationship clarity place, so that is resolved in your mind. I think also there can, and I don't know if this is true for you, but I think that there are frequently complexities related to Could this potentially be okay? Like some of the what ifs, like what if they did get their act together? What is the potential here that needs to be resolved in relationship clarity? But I think that there can also be guilt, like almost survival guilt, and some of those pieces that need to be addressed in stage 5. And so in order to resolve those pieces, it would require working through those steps. Okay. Another friend shared, you've been in the get over him process for 2 years. You've reinvented yourself during this time and evaluated what you want, the type of man that's good for me. I'm really happy and proud of who I am today, but he is still such an Achilles heel. He's the brother of one of my best friends, and so he's in my circle. He moved abroad, he has a girlfriend, and when I found out a few months ago, it made me tumble. Okay. So what I think I'm hearing here is that there is probably, believe it or not, some work in the relationship clarity phase to do. And there is absolutely unfinished emotional business and work to be done in that like closure phase. But also like there, and I would actually need to hear some more of this story in order to speak to this. But, doing the work of the program would absolutely resolve this for you, is related to what is the attachment sticking point. And it could also be something that needed to be addressed in stage 4, related to a loss that could even be above and beyond the person themselves, but something related to them. That is my sense here. So that's a good question. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. And let's see here. Oh my goodness, somebody shared, I spent 9 months talking to a therapist. Yeah, I'm sorry. Therapists are great if you need psychotherapy for the diagnosis and treatment of a clinical mental health condition. That's fantastic. Okay, what stage is where you are still intellectualizing the breakup and how and why it happened, especially if you didn't get real closure at the end? Okay, 2 pieces of this, actually. Some of this needs to happen in the relationship clarity stage so that you can just start doing the work of creating some closure, doing the work of grieving and emotional processing. But that is all revisited in a very, very deep way in stage 6 of this, the learning and growing phase. And this is where you go into the what actually did happen here. What were the chain of events that led to this? How did my ex contribute to this? But also, and I say this with love, like we all co-create our relationships. What was going on with me as I was participating in whatever wound up happening, right? And getting that true clarity through something that I called an after-action review, right? To be able to say what happened. What were the positive parts? What were the things I want to keep? And what do I need to be aware of? What do I need to do differently going forward? How do I find forgiveness for myself and my ex? Those are big parts of that work. Yeah. Okay. One more question here. So I'm struggling with letting go. I want him to talk to me, and I just want him to know that I'm hurting more than he thinks. I want to see if he's working on things. I feel like I made a mistake, and I just want him back. Just having such a hard time not having him in my life. I don't know how to move forward. Having dreams about him, thoughts about him that won't go away. It's been 6 months and I'm still feeling this heartbreak and regret. And it has nothing to do with toxicity or abuse. I've tried to reach out and he won't talk to me. We need to have a conversation. He never asked. Or tried to see what happened or what needed to be working on. We were planning our life together. Okay. And so I'm sorry that you're going through this. This is really ground zero. right? I am hearing that you are currently very much in that that stage one experience of craving contact and wanting to connect and feeling like it is blocked. And so the very first piece of this would just be to start kind of grounding, getting some psychological distance so that you can do some very serious work in that relationship clarity section, because I'm hearing that you want to reconnect. And maybe that is possible. I don't know. But the work of stage 2 will help you answer that question so that you know for sure. And then you can put a plan for reunion together if your ex is willing to participate in that with you. And hopefully that will happen. It sounds like that's the ideal outcome for you. So the module and the program will give you direction around how to make that happen if that is possible. But also it will help you assess, is that possible? Is it a good idea? Would it be healthy for you to do that? And if the answer to those questions are no, it will help you shift into a different place of this mentally and emotionally. Well, you'll be able to start working towards closure, honestly. And then the rest of the pieces on the other side. Okay. So a couple more questions. Oh, we are officially over time. Let me just answer a couple more of these really quick, and then I'll let you guys go here. Let's see. Is there anything you can suggest ahead of time if you see a mutual acquaintance and they want to talk about it? Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, in module 3 of this program, we go deep into how to handle friends, family, what to do with social connections, how to set healthy boundaries, how to manage those situations where people bring things up. So there is a lot that goes into that. So the short answer is that there's not a super quick, easy answer. I have a series of lessons and activities to really help you create a proactive action plan for how you want to respond to these situations on a case-by-case basis. And so that is part of the work of Module 3. But this is a great question and something that people absolutely need to do, because it's, you're just standing there minding your own business in the frozen foods aisle, and somebody's like, oh, hey, I saw so-and-so the other day. They looked great. It's So how do we manage those things is an important part of the healing process, particularly when you're feeling raw, Yeah. Okay. How to deal with feelings of regret and guilt for the role you played in the relationship not working out. Yes. So going back to those, the whole module 5, where we go into those dark emotions, we have entire lessons on guilt, on regret, where we're going deep into those feelings to understand what that is about, with the goal of, certainly, we process them, we put them to rest, but my real goal for you in this program is to turn that into, so what did this experience teach me? How do I listen to these feelings enough to inform how I would like to grow or develop? How does this inform my values? How does this inform who I want to be in my next chapter? That is exceptionally productive and important personal growth work. And the whole module 5 is devoted to all of that. So great question. Okay. Additionally, are there lessons in the program regarding how to co-parent? And you can't have as many. Yes, absolutely. So there are a number of lessons specifically on, I believe it is in module 3 and also module 8 around co-parenting, what those boundaries should look like, best practices for co-parenting in order to maintain, will create new boundaries that support your healing, while also, keeping those necessary lines of communication open. So a lot of instruction related to that. And then also, again, in Module 8, when we're talking about life design, is some help in creating like a new normal for your family, for your kids. What kind of parent do you want to be? Because that is a very important part of this journey. And now I will say that in this particular program, this is Heal from Heartbreak. And in order to co-parent effectively, you have got to do the work of emotional healing so that you are in a good place mentally and emotionally, so that you are not emotionally reactive, so that you have control of yourself, so that you are able to make good decisions for yourself and your kids. And this program helps you create that inner space, and it provides some instruction on how to handle a breakup in the context of kids. But I also do want to say that that is a complex situation, and there are a lot of moving parts. And so I'm actually in the process of developing another entire program that talks about divorce with kids, that's much more focused on how to create a positive experience for your kids, how to co-parent effectively on a very granular level, how to manage situations that are coming down the pipeline if they're not here already. Like, what if my ex remarries? Like, what if I start dating again? How do we navigate step parenting relationships, like those kinds of things. So that is above and beyond this program, but rest assured that there is certainly some material in this program that speaks to healing after heartbreak when you are a parent. Okay, and then one last session here. How can I start the process if we are still sharing space? Yes, that is hard, quite honestly. I think that what will be important for you to do is the work of the first couple of stages. So that grounding, relationship clarity, and then also doing as much work as you can around how to develop new healthy boundaries. And I think that there's probably going to be a short-term answer to that question, like how do you make this incrementally better and start to create some boundaries in the context of living with someone. And then longer term, just knowing that until you create more separation, it might be harder for you to do some of the later stages of this work, but to get support for yourself in the short term, because this is a very, very difficult life situation. And so I'm so glad that you're in our program, Jody, because what you're going through is just really legitimately hard. So just know that, and I'm glad you're here. Okay, let's see. I've gone through, I've gone through loss in various ways, relate to the steps you outlined, but the other person says they don't feel anything at all and never think about the relationship, which I find just, yeah. So again, that goes back to that relationship clarity piece, that there's work for you to do around that. And then one other question, is this a weekly Zoom session? Will the content be the same each week? Oh, okay. So what I'm doing here, this is just an introduction to like help people like you understand, like, here's what's really going on when you can't release an attachment to an ex, just for the purpose of your benefit, so that you understand there's a whole process here. And so this call is going to be the same thing every week. I care very deeply about people having all the information that they need to make informed decisions. And so now that you have this information, if you're like, yeah, I want to keep doing this, this is what we do in the program. So I will follow up with links, but enroll in the program. And that will be lessons designed to walk you through every single one of these stages, lessons with me, with all the different activities that you'll need to do, that will be supported by the Growth Collective, if you would like to do that. So that is weekly coaching calls on a variety of different topics to support your success. Group coaching, where you can share, ask questions, get feedback. And then if you would like to supplement it further, you can do one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist who specializes in breakup recovery coaching. And so that is the program. And so if this feels good for you, if you want more of this, I hope you join us. I think it would be really good for you. Okay. Fantastic. All right, you guys, I actually have a therapy session to hop into in 60 seconds. So I'm going to hang up and go do that. Thank you so much for participating. Oh, and Jeff, you mentioned, can we access a recording of this? Yes, of course. We'll follow up with a replay of this entire conversation. And if this resonated with you, consider enrolling in the program. We'll follow up with links if you'd like to register. We're offering a first week complimentary enrollment in the Growth Collective. So you can start this program with me. You can see if it works for you. You can come check out the Growth Collective. No obligation to continue if it's not for you. And then additionally, if you really would like the support of working one-on-one with a program coach through this, if you enroll, you can have a first complimentary session just to meet them, do a vibe check, see how it feels, if this is going to work for you. No obligation if it doesn't. But if you do move forward with a program coach, you'll be working through the Growth Academy with me. You'll have sessions with your coach, and we will also award you complimentary ongoing access to the Growth Collective at no charge to support your weekly sessions with your coach. And actually, you can do those either weekly or every other week, but attend the Growth Collective group coaching calls weekly. Yeah. So whole wraparound support system. Okay, you guys, we'll follow up with more information, but thank you so much for doing this with me today. I hope it was helpful, and maybe I'll see you in the Growth Collective. All right.